we talked a little bit about like the stigma around therapy. And I think especially for men, there is a stigma that can hold some people back from trying it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that I totally agree. I think that for me, personally, in my own life, I was taught a lot of things by our culture about how men should behave, how a man should act in society. And some of the cultural stereotypes that I picked up were, as a boy, that boys don't cry, feeling was somehow weak or feminine or wasn't okay. I was taught that I was supposed to do everything by myself, that I was, emasculated if I felt something or if I needed, another person to help me with something. And so I grew up with this notion or this idea that I was supposed to do everything all on my own and supposed to stiffen up my upper lip and basically, push any sort of sensation or feeling down. And so I think that a lot of men today have been sort of given this sort of what we're calling here like the stigma around seeking mental health, because essentially we're addressing kind of each one of those sort of core cultural wounding processes that many young boys go through today, which are one, first and foremost, that in therapy, one of the biggest aspects of it is reconnecting to our emotions and discovering what's actually going on inside. And in order to do so, first of all, we have to admit that we need the help in the first place. And so already there, we're working against like two deep cultural woundings of one being, the need to seek help from outside or for another person, but then two, actually having the courage to go in and to feel. And I think that one of the shadows or one of the aspects of our culture, one of the lies is that somehow feeling what is happening inside of our body equates to weakness. And in truth and in actuality, what is occurring is actually, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of strength to give oneself the permission to actually feel an emotion fully. Sadness or grief or rage or, a lot of these emotions, especially in the work that I have with my clients, there's just difficulty in accessing these, especially with men. A lot of men are typically more prone to being able to feel anger. I find that anger is an emotion that men can access, like aggression. However, a lot of men are still uncomfortable kind of tapping into that. There are a lot of men who grow up kind of with this sort of like nice guy stereotype. And, that comes from obviously our parental conditioning, social conditioning of just being a nice little boy and, growing up in a way that we're, appeasing to other people. And in order to do that, one may, put aside their anger. And so essentially throughout our childhoods, perhaps, or at least in my childhood, I learned to put my anger aside. I learned to put my sadness away. And essentially what ended up happening is those emotions didn't go away. They just got lodged in my body as stuck energy. And so over time, those emotions didn't go away. They started affecting me and they started affecting my unconscious. And my attempts to try and resolve some of these emotions were, substance use, primarily alcohol and marijuana, pornography, validation seeking through sexual partners, video games. I've many different ways that I've attempted to cope with and what I would call addictions that have ultimately just been an attempt to ease my, internal struggle, my, pain of living and growing up as a human, which, is all a very natural process. So I think that, to kind of touch on your question as well as, this stigma of mental health. Well, one, there is a stigma around mental health that I do think is, becoming a little bit more normalized, but also I think that there's just fear around like one's own internal journey of like starting to face and like peel back denial and starting to actually look inward towards what's actually going on inside of oneself. And I understand it. And once again, just how courageous it is for somebody to turn inward and to start looking at what's going on inside. And so that's sort of, how I feel about that. I'm curious, if you have any thoughts on that or sort of